Thank you, Ruben. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rob Zimmerman, president of the congregation and a member of your board of trustees. My pronouns are he and him. We welcome you to Unitarian Universalist Church West, located in Brookfield, Wisconsin, on land formerly inhabited by the native peoples of the 7 council fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. Of these, only the Forest County Potawatomi community currently has rights to less than 7 acres of trust land in the vicinity. We offer gratitude to all of the people who have cared for and continue to care for this land we make our home. Whoever you are, from wherever you come, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you define family, you are welcome. The identities you hold, how you want to be called, and your pronouns are respected and welcome here. Whatever the color of your skin, the language your grandparents spoke, the cultures that move in your being, the abilities and disabilities you hold, we welcome you. Whatever you believe, whatever your theology, prayer, or sacrament, even if none at all, we welcome you. We welcome all of you. This is the first service of a new church year, a year that holds a lot of unknowns and a lot of promise. It is wonderful to be together as a community gathered in person and as a community that includes everyone joining us online. And if you're visiting us today, welcome. If you'd like to connect further, or if you just have a question, please pop us an email and tell us a bit about yourself and what you are seeking. You can email us at visitor@uucw.org, or simply fill out one of the yellow forms and drop it in the offering basket. We would love to get to know you. Our service this morning is multi-generational. All ages are gathered this morning as one whole church. I hope everyone got a colored sheet and a crayon or marker on their way in. If not, raise your hand and an usher will bring you one. We will be using these later in the service. There are some activity tables up here where littles and bigs might come to color and engage in the service that way. Also note that the community room is always a space to stretch and move while participating in the service, so please use that space if it's more comfortable for you. Your board made the decision recently that masks are no longer required in this space. That is, as long as the COVID risk remains at medium or better. However, we do want to assure everyone that it is perfectly acceptable and encouraged that you wear a mask if that makes you more comfortable for you and for you to be here. And some of us may choose to wear masks in solidarity with and support of those who want to or need to continue masking. Some announcements. RE program begins next week. If you haven't yet registered your family, please do so using the link in the e-news, or you can sign up in the community room following the service. Next Saturday is our big chili cook-off. Make sure you get your tickets for that and be sure to attend. It's always good food and lots of it, and highly competitive, so you'll enjoy that part of it too. Another announcement, I did want to make sure that you understood we're forming a personnel task force. The board asked us to do that, and we're looking for volunteers that'll help us improve some of the job descriptions and processes that we use for personnel here at UUCW. That was announcement 3. And then finally, announcement 14, I believe it is. There's a meeting around this, yes, excuse me, announcement 13. Micah is hosting an open house on September 14th. For those who are interested, please contact my chief of staff, Karen Zimmerman. And here are the announcements, and welcome to our service of love.
Thank you, Rob. Our call to worship today are the words of Renee Rakowski. It was at a gathering of white women when this gathering of waters, the UU Water Communion, first came to pass. White women in a second wave of gender self-awareness, awakening, connecting, making new meaning, shifting the old ethos. The solidarity of these white women was reflected in the waters each brought, waters that became a liquid harmony of each sweet voice and intention. Today, we gather as a community of humans in a new wave of gender and racial awareness, awakening, connecting, making new meaning, shifting the old ethos. Today, we seek more than solidarity and harmony. We seek inclusion. We seek mutuality. We seek reconciliation. We seek justice for all people. May this, our Ingathering Water Ceremony, reflect the gathering of our collective courage in service of the grace and love promised by our liberal faith. Now, I bet you already noticed that this will be a different kind of water communion than you've probably experienced before, but let's just go with the flow. And folks at home, you may want to print out the instructions that came with the order of service, or at least have a piece of paper nearby. You might even fill a bowl with water and keep it at the ready. Traditionally, if that framework even applies, a water communion is a ritual that involves each person bringing water that represents their life, maybe specifically their connection with water during the summer months, then pouring those waters together into one common bowl. And it symbolizes the joining of our lives. Many waters, one pool. Many individuals, one community. And indeed, this ritual is especially poignant as we, God's willing, come out the other side of the COVID pandemic. It is so very good for our bodies and souls to be together. As the opening words indicated, this ritual was first done at a gathering of UU women in the early 70s, and for them, it was a way of gathering in solidarity in their struggle for gender justice. In every struggle for justice and liberation, solidarity, that claiming of togetherness, is a key ingredient. A few weeks ago, I attended a training in Montgomery, Alabama, and there we were privileged to spend an evening with Reggie Harris, a civil rights singer and activist. With him, we sang several spirituals and pondered what it means to sing a song that might come out of a different tradition than our own, from people with a different experience than our own. And he led us in singing "Wade in the Water" and told us that it was one of the best-known songs in the slave community, that these violently transplanted people were told, maybe repeatedly, the Bible story about the Exodus and the escape across the Red Sea. And this song became one that people could take on their journey to freedom, encouraging them to put one foot in front of the other and to keep going. And you know, we too are people who seek liberation, knowing that none of us can be free unless all of us are free. And in that spirit, let's sing "Wade in the Water" using the words printed in the order of service. Note that we'll sing the chorus between each two lines, which is a little different than what's printed there. Now, if you happened to bring water with you today, as we sing, I invite you to come and pour that water into the pool of this community, these waters that represent the seas that we're going to be sailing on today. There are also a couple of pictures here. If you didn't bring water and yet you want to come forward and contribute something of yourself to the pool, something that represents your life. So with all that going on, wade in the water. Please stand in body and or spirit as we sing together.
God's gonna trouble the water.
chalice lighting words this morning are those of Katie Gelfman, the Spirit of Water. As leader, I'll read the regular text and ask you to respond with the text in italics. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion.
We reunite to share the flow of our hearts with one another.
We gather together in ritual.
To celebrate our fountains of joy.
To hold each other through storms of grief.
To guide one another through rapids of transformation.
To rest together on ponds of stillness.
Together beyond the spirit of water,
Its many forms and its life-giving essence.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at Unitarian Universalist Church West. And my pronouns are he and his. So good to see people gathered here in the sanctuary and to know that we're also joined by way of Local Live, those not able to be with us in person. Welcome to all of you. So Ingathering is an exciting time. New beginning, another start. So what does this church year hold? We can chart a course, but much is still up in the air, with many decisions still to be made about how we will venture forth. Reverend Julie is here to help us navigate this. And it's not unusual if you feel that sailing uncharted territory ahead seems a little bit scary. The story I'm going to read today recognizes this and takes place on the ocean. So before I begin, let's think and maybe even share aloud what we already know about that place. So we don't live by the sea, although I'm told Lake Michigan, which is right here near us, has a lot in common with it. So what things do we already know about these really large bodies of water? I'm hearing they're deep. The waves, maybe salty. The ocean certainly is, absolutely. Unpredictable. Mm-hmm. That can be pretty scary, yeah. Some people find them very soothing. Thank you for sharing that as well.
Home to lots of life.
Home to many different kinds of life, yes. Beautiful places. Good for trade, so it's practical also. Could go swimming, recreation. I'm sorry? Threatening. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm going to kind of segue to now, because our story here today is kind of focuses on that, the kind of scary parts, at least at first. So let's see, it could be, so it could be a scary place, right, to be going out onto the ocean, or maybe one of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, for example. And so just think about this to yourself now. What might you be sure to have with you when venturing out on the ocean or maybe on Lake Michigan? Mm-hmm. So we all have different needs that kind of rise ahead. Let's see what little boat has on its mind, on her mind, I should say, right? Ships are often referred to as feminine. So the book is Little Boat by Thomas Docherty, and it's published by Templar Books. And as we see this big ocean here, I'm just wondering what obstacles you might be running into these days in your own life. What dangers might you be having to navigate? The ocean is a big place, and I am just a little boat. but I chart my own course, and I drop my own anchor. The sea is always changing and full of dangers, but I sail on. Through terrible storms, up and down, rolling waves, past giant sea monsters, in search of, all the while, little boat says, despite all these obstacles, all these dangers, sailing on in search of my friends. She says, together we dive down to the bottom and climb up to the top. We go round and round in circles and never want to stop. Which makes me wonder, who are your friends, the people that you seek out? Despite the challenges and dangers along the path of life, who is it that you long to be with to help you through that process, to play, to explore, to live life? Full steam ahead to the edge of the world. And still we sail on. Because now no ocean is too big for a little boat like us. The book ended there with a picture of the little book heading off into the distance, into the future. Actually, I'm going to go back because I think what I was hoping for was to have this up. We'll stay there. And what do you notice about how the author illustrated this scene? No, it's actually, yeah, I think it is that one. Now I can't remember if I wanted this one or the last one, but anyway, I think this will work. So, what's something you notice about this particular image and how the author illustrated little boat going off? Anything, any details that you notice?
The eyes look big.
Eyes are big. You said still scared, you think, or is that what you say? Yeah, okay. Anything else you notice about the way the author illustrated this last final scene? Yes.
The calm seas are not perfectly flat.
Okay, not perfectly flat, not exactly calm, but certainly some waves still there. Yes. Anchor is holding the back, but it's not. But it is no longer in the ground, right? It is kind of dragging, though, isn't it? Yeah. And I think I did want to have this other image. I'll go back to it. That is the one. Yep, that is the one. Similar, but anything else you notice? Got his friend. Little boat has her friend with her, absolutely. And this is what's really important to remember, that we are never alone, even though it may feel like it sometimes. And sometimes we need to seek others out. But there are people in the world who love and value each one of us. So, I only showed some of the illustrations and pages here. I'm going to leave the book on our soul work table over here along with some other materials. If at any point during the service you want to take a closer look, this is open for you to use as needed, along with other materials that we'll be using throughout the worship service. Thanks
so much, Dave, for telling us that beautiful story of Little Boat. There are many times in my life when I have felt that I am alone out there in the vast, scary, relentless sea. And while I may sometimes be literally alone, I can remind myself that I am never truly alone. None of us are. You know, I was talking the other day with someone who had just been on a canoe trip, another way in which I think we wade in and onto the water. And it reminded me of the canoe trips I've taken. I learned to canoe a long time ago in summer camp, and I remember those crazy lessons vividly. Still, I'm not an expert or an avid canoer. So when joining friends on such outings, I've always worried about whether or not I was up to it. Would I be a strong enough stroker? Would we successfully navigate the rocky parts? Did I pack the right things, and did I pack them in the right way? There's a lot to think about and to worry about when we're preparing for such a trip. And then, comes that moment, many of you recognize it, I think, of putting in. That excitement of getting on the water after all that planning and preparation, and the enticement of the river or the lake or the flowage. Whatever the weather is on that particular morning, there's still giddy chatter among the friends. For someone who doesn't spend that much time in a canoe, it's always a true adventure with a group of companions choosing to navigate the waters in front of us, come what may. Now, I suspect that I am never the preferred paddle partner. While I feel comfortable maneuvering a canoe on my own, when with a partner, I know I don't do it right. I know I'm persistent, but I'm neither tireless nor an artful steer. And I probably contribute a bit too much to the possibility of a swamping incident. Still, fortunately, I've found that whatever the group, the best paddlers have compensated for my inadequacies. And even if they did surge ahead sometimes, they would wait for the best. They would wait there patiently for those of us who were straggling, sometimes even being in the best position to rescue a paddle that had gotten away from us upriver. We were not all in the same canoe, but we were on the same trip. And then whatever happened, there were always the beloved after stories, the stories of those swamped canoes, the sunburn, the campsite bears, the terrible portages, or portages, you say here, I think. We can look back on these trips as extraordinary and unique moments in time. The perilous or frustrating moments are the ones I think that we love most to tell about. And I believe that's because it's a time shared so intimately and so intentionally. And truly, are we not always on such a trip, traveling in an unknown territory to an unknown yet inevitable destination, constantly planning or worrying over the next part of the journey, carefully choosing our companions and often ending up in the company of strangers, encountering calm seas one day and terrible storms the next? It's life. Remember how at the beginning of the pandemic, there was some communal comfort being found in the notion that while it was a terrible experience, we were all in the same boat. It was to say that no one anywhere was exempt from the dangers of the virus. No amount of privilege could guarantee being spared. No location was safe. No sure protection could be found for anyone. And yet there was some comfort in thinking that we were in it together. And then, as things progressed, we became aware that this was not an accurate analogy. Indeed, we are all in the same pandemic ocean, that's true. But we are in different boats. And different boats have differing capacities to avoid danger. Not all boats could work from home because some boats carried essential workers. Some boats have no health insurance, no job security. Not all boats have access to vaccines. Boats carrying people of color, queer folk, those with mental illnesses, the incarcerated, the poor. Those boats were sailing on the same seas, but were likely experiencing the storms and dangers in very different ways from those of us who might be in bigger, more privileged boats. So here we are, beginning a new church together, facing many unknowns. This morning we are gathering ourselves, and perhaps just being here indicates a conscious choice to sail together. And yet, let us acknowledge that while on the same seas, we are not in the same boat. Our survival will depend on those who are stronger, looking out for those who are maybe being left behind. And our solidarity, our strength will be found in acknowledging our differences and embracing those differences as the thing that will save us. We are, each of us, unique, beautiful beings, full of messy feelings and opinions. We don't agree. We've had different experiences. Our boats aren't identically seaworthy. And yet, as my colleague Teresa Isoto has said, all of us need all of us to make it. All of us need all of us to make it. Whoever you are, whatever the boat that is your life, however ready you are for the journey, we are on this sea together with all the other boats, whatever color or shape they may be. We seek inclusion. We seek reconciliation. We seek justice for all people. All of us need all of us to make it. And may we embrace the journey together, whatever comes. Lynn has a poem for us.
Thank you for that. I'm Lynn Capitan. My pronouns are she and hers. And Reverend Julie asked me to read this poem this morning, and it's a real joy to do so because it's filled with imagery. It's called My Life. It's by Billy Collins. And it's this notion of how images come to us and help us find meaning in our lives, and we think in terms of images and metaphors for life. And this is something that's very familiar to me as an artist and as an art therapist professionally. Images are my companions. And so every day when images come to me and I'm forever conjuring them and contemplating them, their messages and their meanings, they always put me in touch with those larger contours of life and this notion that I live my life within this larger world, in the intersections of this larger world. So I hope you'll enjoy this. My Life by Billy Collins. Sometimes I see it as a straight line, drawn with a pencil and a ruler transecting the circle of the world. Or as a finger piercing a smoke ring, casual, inquisitive. But then the sun will come out, or the phone will ring, and I will cease to wonder. If it is one thing, a large ball of air and memory, or many things, a string of small farming towns and a dark road winding through them. Let us say it is a field I have been hoeing every day, hoeing and singing, and then going to sleep in one of its furrows. Or now that it is more than half over, a partially open door, rain dripping from the eaves. Like yours, it could be anything. A nest with one egg, a hallway that leads to 1,000 rooms, whatever happens to float into view when I close my eyes. Or look out a window for more than a few minutes, so that some days I think it must be everything and nothing at once. But this morning, sitting up in bed, wearing my black sweater and my glasses, the curtains drawn and the windows up, I am a lake. My poem is an empty boat, and my life is the breeze that blows through the whole scene, stirring everything it touches, the surface of the water, the limp sail, even the heavy, leafy trees along the shore.
Thanks, Lynn. I love that line. My life is a breeze stirring everything it touches. I spoke earlier of being in this together, and Lynn just read a beautiful poem that examines an individual life. And again, that's our human reality, individuals together. And now comes a time of personal reflection and meditation and drawing and coloring. I remind you that there are yellow slips included with your order of service. If there's something you'd like to share with me or with our excellent lay pastoral care team, please fill one out and drop it into the offering basket later or into the box over here at the side of the sanctuary. For those of you at home, you can use the QR code on the order of service or the link in Friday's e-news, or Thursday's e-news, right, Thursday. I'm sure, as always, that each of you is carrying some heavy cargo. You may be thinking of friends and families who are experiencing storms, or perhaps you're thinking of this anniversary of 9/11, or the relentlessness of gun violence, or the death of Queen Elizabeth and whatever that means for the world. You may be facing personal challenges with your health, your relationships, your work. Or you might be going through a time of smooth sailing and celebrating births or anniversaries and feeling particularly grateful. All of this is held in our common journey, and I'd be honored to hear your stories or needs. So this is the time when you're invited to draw or write, using, for those of you here at UUCW, the colored piece of paper you were given. For those at home, you may have printed such a sheet from the instructions, or alternatively, any 8.5 by 11 piece of paper would do, maybe cut into a square. A bit later, we're going to be folding these into our own little boats. Now please, I know the paper looks complicated. You can choose to completely ignore the words and the lines and write and draw or doodle wherever you want on either or both sides, or you can follow the instructions if that's the type of person you are. Whatever, there's really no way to do this wrong. There's that piece of paper, I think. No. Oops. Okay. So we're going to be doing this time of meditation in 3 short acts. And each act begins with a question and then a time for you to write or draw as you so choose. So let's begin. First, let's consider our personal preparedness. If you were writing a poem similar to the one that Lynn read earlier, how would you describe your life, your boat right now? Are you feeling seaworthy? What is it that you want to be sure you have on your boat? What do you have inside of you that will help you set forth? Think on that and write or draw as you so choose, as Reuben plays for us. Now I invite you to imagine that moment of putting in. As you stand on the shore or the dock of life, preparing to venture forth, what do you see? Looking down the river or out onto the horizon, what are your dreams and hopes and fears? Do you see storms and dangers, or fun and adventure? What are those seas of life on which you're sailing? Reuben. And now, consider your companions. As you join others on the voyage, what do you expect or need from them, and what can you offer to them? Who are the friends you want to have at your side, and are you ready to help if they need it? What is it that is possible together? So we have studied our hearts, stuffed our Duluth packs with what we need, and we've begun to set a course, knowing that we are not alone, knowing that we are in good company with a whole flotilla of other little boats, past and present, near and far. So as you finish up your time of reflection and meditation, let's enjoy the voices of our choir singing Somos el Barco, We Are the Boat.
The stream sings it to the river sings it to the sea sings it to the boat that carries you and me. The boat we are sailing on was built by many hands. The sea we are sailing on touches many lands. The voyage has been long and hard, and yet we're sailing still, with a song to help pull us together if we only will.
So, okay, I need to turn this on. It's on, good. Let's build our little boats. If you're all ready for that. You can put down everything except the piece of paper you've been writing on, maybe a book or clipboard if you need a surface. So the first thing is, if you want to pay attention to where the writing ends up, so that you want to turn the paper upside down so that the U shape is at the bottom and the writing looks like it's upside down. The instruction writing is upside down. But if you don't care about that, it doesn't really matter. So then, if you've got your paper in front of you, fold the right side over the left. Crease it. You with me? Okay. Now, fold the top down. How are we doing? Crease it. Okay. So, now orient it so the open flaps are at your lower left side. And take 3 of them and fold them up to the corner. 3 of them. And crease that. How are we doing? Okay. Then, you probably know the next part. You turn it over and fold the other one up. So the one that's left goes up and you end up with a triangle. It looks like this. Are we there? Yeah? Okay. So here's the beautiful moment. Turn it so it's like this with the long edge on the bottom, and then open it. I guess I skipped that. Open it at the bottom. So you're kind of making a little hat, but then fold it opposite. So that, I don't know how to describe that. You just have to pull the sides out and one down until you're making a smaller square. How are we doing? Anybody need help? It's going to kind of look like that. Looks a little messy. You guys seeing it over there? I know you can't quite see it. That looks good. I'm going to give you a moment here. Some of you have it and some of you don't. Look around. Is there someone who needs help around you? That's what we do. Look for the helpers. Be a helper. Okay. So now, here's the moment of transformation. You hold it so that this open flap is sort of at the bottom, and you hold onto the points at the top, and you pull them apart. See, and now you have a little boat. Or as we say in Minnesota, a boat. How'd you do? Did it work? Oh, should I click? Thanks, Kelly. So this was the picture of pulling it apart. And then you get a boat. I can hear from the noise that not everybody has it yet. It's okay. Not every boat is seaworthy. We've already discovered that. And yes, you can wear it as a hat if that works better for you. All right. So, whatever your boat, I suggest that you hold it in your hands, give it a little love, bless it on its voyage. Know that it contains oceans. It contains oceans, even as it sails off onto seas unknown. You got it? Okay. It's all okay. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna be here for each other. It's all good. Okay. Okay, everybody, just take a few deep breaths. Breathe. We are going to set sail together. And in a moment, you're going to be invited to come forward as you like and place your little boat onto the seas of this community. You can also, of course, ask a neighbor to bring your boat up for you if that works better for you. Okay, is everybody with me? Yeah. For those of you online, I hope you can imagine adding your boat to the waters of this community. If there are several in your household, why not fill the kitchen sink or the bathtub and put your boats in it? So we're going to try to do this in a somewhat orderly fashion. We'll start with this house right section, those on my left. Come up and put your boat in the sea, and then the middle section, and then the left, house left. And Ruben's gonna play for us, so just keep it flowing. are sure in this together, aren't we? We may go round and round in circles, yet still we sail on, because ain't no ocean wide enough to keep us from joining our boats in common love. Whatever the size of the ocean, whatever the condition of our individual boats, whatever the dangers we face, we are indeed in it together. So with the love, patience, trust, and goodwill that flows out of each little boat, may it come to meet the next and the next and the next, and may our voyage as a beloved community be forever blessed.
So, as I said before, I'm Rob Zimmerman, and I want to introduce our Split the Plate partner for September, Community Water Services. And some of you know that water is near and dear to my heart professionally, and water has also been in the news a lot recently, and not in a good way. Places are getting too much water or not enough water, and the places that are getting too much water, places like Jackson, Mississippi, it is a third of the country of Pakistan is making safe water not available to people who live in those places. We're blessed here in the Great Lakes region to have lots of water, but in a lot of cases it gets contaminated, and in particularly in older homes in the city of Milwaukee, it gets contaminated with lead from the pipes. And so Community Water Services is going to address that, and we're blessed today to be joined by Sharon Adams and her husband Larry, who have founded Community Water Services. Many of you know Sharon and Larry as the founders of Walnut Way Conservation Corporation, a community development corporation dedicated to economically diverse and environmentally sustainable neighborhoods. Sharon helped launch the Lindsay Heights Neighborhood Health Alliance and Lindsay Heights Commercial Corridors Committee, including 40 medical, academic, government, business, and resident partners. In 2015, she and Larry formed HN Development to inspire real estate development for the common good in historically disinvested neighborhoods. Their current project is the Adams Garden Park for environmental groups and businesses. Sharon's going to tell us a little bit about Community Water Services, a new nonprofit dedicated to eliminating lead from drinking water in Milwaukee homes.
Good morning, beloved community. Good morning. My name is Sharon Adams, and I'm going to start with a confession. So this morning, it was really, really raining, and I'm a special driver. And so Larry gets up, and he says, "I'm going with you." And I said to my husband, "I don't have time for you to drive me here." And he said, "I'm going with you." So I want to say how grateful I am for having enough consciousness to know that you don't boat alone. And so I'm again glad to be here, thanking Rob for inviting me into your community, which I feel close to for many reasons, and to share with you a little bit about Community Water Services. I want you to think that there are 4,000 children right now that are at risk of lead poisoning. If you are lead poisoned, can it be fixed? That's a yes or no. If you think yes, raise your hand. You are a great and curious learner, and I have a new fact for you. It cannot be fixed. So we must reach these children. And we have a solution. Our group, Community Water Services, is focused on the interior. You hear so much about lead laterals, and that's fine, but it's not a full solution. Our full solution is from every tap in the water. That includes our granddaughter who insists that the bathtub is her floating place. It includes every child, every tap, so that the water is clean and safe. You can't see lead in the water. It has to be filtered. And what we have is a whole house filter service that makes the water clean. Our target is children under 6 and pregnant women. So we have information on the table outside. We'll be there. And I know that together we can reach the children and their families and ensure that they have clean drinking water. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. We will now graciously receive the offering.
So let's sing together before we go. You heard the choir sing this earlier, and we're going to reprise it together. Since it may not be familiar to you, we'll sing the chorus in a call and response fashion. The choir will sing a line, and then we'll repeat it. The words are on the order of service, if you'd like to refer to them. So here we go. Please stand.
Somos el barco,
Somos el mar, Nabego and ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea. I sail in you, you sail in me.
so with our hopes we raise the sails to
And
face
face
the
the
winds
winds
once
once
more.
song. I love this ritual. I love knowing that my little boat is out there with your little boat. We are in this great sea together. And just note that if you want, you can come get your soggy little boat after the service and take it home, just to remind you of this time together. Our closing words are an adaptation of words written by Laura Horton Ludwig, way of benediction, as we stand here together, aware of each other, all that's come before and all that's ahead of us. Fire and water, ancient opposites. Sun and ocean, the cradle of life. Dancing flame, dancing river. Adventures and fears, doubts and possibilities. Our voyage together into the unknown. We have invoked all of this today. And as we extinguish our chalice flame, may we sail off together boldly toward new horizons. Amen, and blessed be.